Today, the day we have been waiting for all of March. And here on the last day of the month, we received the Prospective Plantings reports and the grain stocks reports. I'm joined now by Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net. Kaden, what did we learn today and how did the markets react?
Yeah, I tell you what, man, if this was one of those that, you gave me the numbers, at 9 o'clock this morning, I think I would have been pretty wrong. I planted expected corn acres at 95.3 million. That's almost a million above average trade guess, and yet corn's still closing up about a penny on the day. We went into the report down three or four, so really a decent turnaround. Of course, if you had high corn acres, beans came in a touch low at 84.7, and new crop beans going to close up about 14 here. So all things considered, a pretty good day for sure on the grain side.
And when you talk about that difference between maybe the trade guess and the actual number from USDA, there's a lot of moving parts in there. And one of the things that we've been talking about at the office is, let's say this is a survey based report, by the way. So let's say that you sent in your survey 3, 4 weeks ago. It could look vastly different, your plans for the growing season right now at the end of the month. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Why the numbers wouldn't necessarily line up with what we thought going in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot has changed in ag since March 1. I believe it was the late evening of the 28th that the war in Iran started, and so obviously lots changed since then, as far as fertilizer market and grain market prices and all the like. So uh, this is always a report that the market's probably always going to trade, and if you like the report, what it had to say, you're happy with that. And if you didn't like the report, it's pretty easy to say, well, they got it wrong. We'll figure it out in June. And a lot of people will do that. Although I think this report's probably going to be a little bit more popular than maybe what we had in January. But again, this one's always a little bit of a shot in the dark just because you got to find that initial number. The one in June, you at least have this one to build off of a little bit. But here we are, man. We're going to figure it out. But we definitely know more, or we think we do know more today than yesterday.
So, based on what we saw today, does this give a little bit of steam to the soybean complex?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to a little bit. I mean, of course, on the other side of the report, acres dominate, 80% of this report, just as far as what everybody wants to talk about and project. There's also quarterly stocks involved too, as well, which were actually a little bit more bullish for corn and a little bit more bearish for beans. So you kind of had a little give and take there as far as acres and stocks. Corn had maybe bearish acres, bullish stocks, and beans opposite. So regardless, I think it feels good that you have these numbers and you're going to close green and kind of get it turned around. We certainly had been in a bit of a slide coming into this one, especially on the corn side. So I would like to think this is maybe put your foot in the ground and turn around type thing. Maybe market was on its heels a bit, bracing for like a 96, didn't get that, and so sure would like to think that that $5 new crop corn is achievable and $12 new crop beans on the heels of this thing. May take a little weather premium to get there, but we sure like to think so.
On the other side of the trade today, how did cattle and hogs trade in the ag marketplace?
Yeah, continuing a pretty decent week there. Fat cattle up almost $3 today, which is a good size move. Feeders a dollar and a half or so. Up is I'm sorry, no, fat's up a dollar and a half. Feeders up almost six. I read my board wrong. So another really strong day across the cattle. I mean, continuing to build. Some momentum back after it felt like we had given it back for a while. Hogs are still kind of flat to down a little bit. I think they're a little bit susceptible here, but the cattle complex, of course, the fundamental story that we talk about all the time hasn't really changed. I had obviously that thing's going to trade all the time, and so we had kind of a pullback over the last 2 weeks or so, but certainly clawing it back here this week, and looks to be still a pretty healthy market.
And then just to wrap up here today, Caden, we see you in the cab out there in the field. What were you trying to work on here today? And did you get were you able to complete that task?
Yeah, I don't know if you could tell. I had a little pop-up shower, more than a shower, come here and hit me. So just shooting on some pre-planned hydrous here. Had kind of a window here where we got plenty of rain coming later this week, starting tonight. So and I didn't really want to plant any beans. There's really no planting going on around me here in Eastern Illinois, but a few guys running anhydrous. So uh, thought we had a full day's worth. Got kind of shut down here midday, which worked out. So I got to talk to you. But yeah, we'll see what wants to bring the rest of the day. See if I'm going to be rained out everywhere. If I can jump across the county and get a little done.
Head to agmarket.net for all the marketing resources and information from the team to get in touch with Kaden and the rest of the group at agmarket.net. Well, Kaden, thanks for taking the time to join us here today. Really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys as always. Thanks, man.